Hello and welcome to Devil's Advocate. As the government approaches its halfway mark, is it losing direction, and worse, is the Prime Minister's image falling apart? Those are the two key issues that I shall raise today with Science and Technology Minister Kapil Sibal. Mr. Sibal, in an article published by The Hindu last week, a paper that is supportive of your government and its policies, it claims the Manmohan Singh government no longer commands the public imagination. The government gives the impression of either not having an agenda or not knowing how to stay on top of it. That's a pretty damning verdict.
First of all, Karan, the government's agenda is in the common minimum program. It's all set out there and we are moving along that road. And number two, as far as Harish is concerned, Khare, I have great respect for him personally, but I don't entirely agree with what he says.
All right, let's look at the government's performance. After that, I'll come to other issues to do with ministerial difference, and finally, with differences with the left. In terms of performance, your decision to reserve seats for the OBCs in higher education is being questioned by the Supreme Court. Your Office of Profit Bill has been returned by the President. Your disinvestment policy is being questioned by the left. It's being called, in fact, a breach of the common minimum program. Your decision to raise petrol prices has created a furor not just with the left, but with your own party, the Congress. Meanwhile, as far as the Aam Aadmi is concerned, prices keep rising steadily. It looks like a shambles.
No, I don't think so. For example, you talk about prices rising steadily. We've been in government now for 2 years and 7 months, right?
25 months, actually.
All right, 25 months. And in the last 25 months, how many weeks has the price risen? You're talking about a phenomena that has occurred in the last 4 weeks.
All right.
Now, therefore, we have to deal with this phenomena, and the government is set to deal with it. And you know that the government means business.
Can I put it like this? You're very sanguine about the nature of the price rise because you're saying A, it's minimal, and B, the government can deal with it and knows how to deal with it.
Yes.
The problem is that an unprecedented meeting of the Congress Working Committee, which should have been supportive and understanding, was called on this very issue. And do you know what the front page banner headline on the Times of India the next day said? CWC lashes out, tells the government to get its act together on prices. The message from the Congress to the country is that the government is incompetent, the PM can't control it, Sonia has to call the shots.
On the contrary. First of all, we shouldn't go by newspaper headlines, right? The government party lashes out at government. If we start believing newspaper headlines, then we might as well allow newspapers to run the government.
But why was the CWC meeting necessary?
That's what it's necessary because matter of price rise is a matter of great concern to the government and to the people of this country and to the party. And they are absolutely right in raising the issue. And they are right in saying that we must do something immediately to deal with it. And we are.
But the message is that the government needs to be prodded and pushed by Congress.
No, the government itself was dealing with it. I'm sorry, government itself was dealing with it. CWC was called. CWC puts its point of view before the government. The Prime Minister was there, and the government is acting. Just yesterday, or rather this morning, Sheila Dixit reduced the prices of moong dal and urad dal
only by increasing the government subsidy.
Nothing wrong with that. If you want to reach the common man and reduce the burden on him, there's no harm in...
So add to the fiscal deficit instead.
Fiscal deficit is an all-time low. You know that. Both the revenue deficit and the fiscal deficit
central government, not the Delhi government.
I'm talking about the central government.
I'm talking about the Delhi government. Sheila is the one who's lowered the prices.
Don't worry about the Delhi government. Fiscal deficit are not out of control of the Delhi government.
That's what you say. Let me come back to the reality on the ground as seen by the common man. Most people have an impression that ministers are doing their own thing, that the Prime Minister is not in control. Let me give you 3 examples. People believe that Sharad Pawar runs his agriculture ministry oblivious of the Prime Minister. Arjun Singh and Meera Kumar seem to run their reservation policy regardless of the Prime Minister. Anbamani Ramdas seems to be much more concerned about soft drinks and smoking than the state of the country's hospitals.
You know, Karan, the march of a nation is not dependent on what minister says what at what point in time. The march of a nation is dependent on... Did I say that?
Then what means it's not dependent on ministers?
Because the march of a nation is dependent on the direction the nation is being taken forward towards when government is being run. And look at what the macro and the micro figures are. If you don't mind, yes.
A brief interruption. If the march of the nation is determined by the way the government is being run, why is Congress so concerned about the rise of petroleum prices? Why is your own party protesting on the streets?
As far as the rise of petroleum prices is concerned, you know very well that with the rise of international prices of petroleum, there is no choice.
Why doesn't Congress
part of the burden?
Why doesn't Congress and Sonia Gandhi accept that?
The party's reaction is different from the government's, and therefore the government. It's not a problem.
It is a problem.
Incidentally, it will happen in every democracy.
No, it won't.
Oh yes.
Name one democracy where the ruling
Republicans in the US, They react entirely differently.
It's not a parliamentary system.
In the British government, the Labour Party reacts entirely differently how Tony Blair runs the government.
At no point has the Labour Party officially led demonstrations against Tony Blair. Sonia Gandhi led demonstrations here.
No, not against anybody. The issue, the people of the party led demonstrations. Nothing wrong with that.
Sonia supported them.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong
because she heads the party. She heads the party, and she's right in saying that if people's burden is being increased, the government should look at it, and we're looking at it. Incidentally, let me talk about the macro figures. Let's talk about where this nation is going.
Let's not get blinded.
No, we are not getting it.
Let's come to the impression that Sonia Gandhi doesn't seem to approve of the petroleum price hike.
That's not completely. That's not. Why do you say that?
Because even Congress though it was okay to buy her, even though the petroleum minister met her, she still protested.
Let me answer. I thought that we have a deal.
Go ahead.
Right? That you will ask the question and I will be allowed to answer.
Answer the question.
So now, I'm answering the question. As far as the party is concerned, the party is entitled to put its point of view. The government listened to it and the government is obligated to explain it. It explained it. And now, we have no problem on the petroleum rise.
So there's a clash of point of view between the party and the government.
There is no clash. I don't understand this. There is always a clash. In a cabinet meeting, every cabinet minister gives his point of view. Doesn't mean there's a clash. It's part of a debate. It's part of an ongoing process. And that is how it should happen in a democracy.
You're convinced. Now, can I interrupt? You're convinced that, in fact, the position taken by Congress and the position taken by the government are equally understandable. It's part of a debate.
Yes.
Fine. In which case, let's talk about your allies, because they have even more serious differences with you. Without the left, you couldn't survive. They've just issued a 9-page document analyzing 2 years of the UPA in power. This is their conclusion. After the passage of 2 years of the UPA government, the people are yet to realize that their material conditions are changing for the better. That's a thumbs down.
First of all, tell me, Karan, can material conditions change overnight in 2.5 years of any people with any country with 1 billion people?
2.5 years is a long time.
Any country with 1 billion people? When we are having Now let me answer, please. We have a Bharat Nirman program. We're going to spend 1,74,000.
Going to spend?
Did I say that we have spent? I said going to spend. I am not in dispute. We have given the first tranche of the money. We have a huge Pradhan Mantri Sadak Yojana. You know that's being completed.
Going to spend?
One second. 96% of that is completed in June 2006. These are figures. We have huge expenditures in the area of health and education. You know that the left may dispute. I'm giving the figures. There are, in fact, about 1,72,000 health workers who have been appointed. As far as Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan is concerned, there's a 129% increase in the budgetary allocations. Actual increase. 57,000 new schools have been built. 34,000 are in progress. 500,000 have to be built. That's going to be done over a period of 5 years. Can anybody deny those?
The 57,000 schools that have been built are part of a sanction of 137,000.
That's correct.
That's only 34%.
But did I say no?
And the 137,000 is part of 500,000,
which is only 25%. I myself said so, which is in 5 years' time.
About is minimal
in 5 years' time. 500,000 in 5 years. We are 92,000 today. We have recruited, we have recruited 4,92,000 teachers.
Audiences will neither follow your statistics.
No, they will follow, because you won't allow them to hear my figures.
I am. Let me put this to you. If your figures are so overwhelmingly convincing, why is the left, your allies, so unconvinced of them?
Please ask the left to give me the figures that we have not reached. You please tell me.
Are you talking to the left through me? Is that the state of your relationship?
You have in fact asked me that this is what the left says. I would like to know the facts.
Can I put something to you? Far from actually allaying the left's concerns as publicly expressed on the 13th of June, and since then 17 days have passed, the government instead has locked itself in a fresh dispute with the left over disinvestment. And this time round, can I finish? This time round, you're not even going to win the dispute no matter how it ends, because if you continue with disinvestment, left protests will grow, their anger will grow.
First of all,
if you pull back, the government will look weak, as if it's buckled under pressure. Either way, you lose.
First of all, what we have done is consistent with the common minimum program.
They dispute that.
Well, please point out the common minimum program to me. Let the left point it out as to on what basis. This is not disinvestment of Navratnas.
Can I answer? You've asked me point it out. I'll give you the left answer. The left say that, first of all, generally speaking, the common minimum program is against privatization. They deem this disinvestment to be creeping privatization. They fear that what you're doing in small tranches will lead to the end result. Therefore, they want to stop it now.
The common minimum program doesn't say that.
The common minimum
That's an
program says
interpretation.
that generally privatization is something that
only Navaratras. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. The phrase is generally for all privatization.
That's right, but this is not privatization.
Well, they deem it to be.
But they deem it. This is the point. It is not in violation of the common minimum program.
Don't you see the problem I'm pointing
at? It may be a
problem.
No. But they'll have to understand it.
Minister, you're proving the point I'm
not
making. No, can I finish? The relationship between you and your critical allies. Can I finish the question?
Karan.
Can I finish the question? Then answer. The relationship between you and your critical allies has reached such a low point that you can't convince them that you're even doing the right thing. They're criticizing you, you don't reply to it, you reply instead in interviews.
You are mistaken, you are completely mistaken. You are bringing it up in interviews. We have replied to it. We had a very good meeting with the left. I know it for a fact.
No meeting has been held with the left after that 13th June analysis.
Well, whatever, that we'll have a meeting. We'll have a meeting.
Can I pause?
I'm sure, I'm not sure. I was not here, so I don't know exactly whether the meeting was held or not. But let me fill you in what happened on Tuesday. Now let me answer.
No, one second.
Please, let me answer.
Just 1 second, you can answer that. The Prime Minister on Tuesday said this to Mr. Raja, National Secretary of the CPI. He was quoted in the Economic Times. He was quoted in the Hindustan.
Sorry, Karan. I'm not going to go by any of this.
Hang on.
I'm not going to go by any of this. You quote me newspaper figures, headlines. I'm not going to go on any of this. You give me facts and figures, I'll respond.
The Prime Minister is scared that in fact the left is going to pull the
Prime Minister
down.
said he was scared.
He senses himself caught in a catch-22. He says, are you planning to bring
Prime
down
Minister has said that he senses himself that he is caught in a catch-22. Who has said that?
The Prime Minister?
Who has said?
According to D. Raja?
According to D. Raja.
Not denied by the PM and confirmed by the PM's press officer. Not the exact words, but the substance.
Don't reduce this to a farce. We are not afraid of anybody. We'll carry on implementing the common minimum program. We'll do it honestly, and we'll do things for the people and have programs for the people. And I'm not sure the programs will reach the people. The left has an ideology. The left is not the Congress party. They are bound to criticize. They have the right to criticize. We'll debate with them. We'll try and convince them. And we will do whatever we can to run this government for 5 years.
In which case, let's take a break. Let's come back and talk about the Prime Minister's image. Over the last 25 months, has it taken a knock? Or is it still as secure as it was in May 2004? See you in a moment for the second critical part of this interview. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate and an interview with Science and Technology Minister Kapil Sibal on the government's performance and now on the Prime Minister's image. Mr. Sibal, in part one we talked about the government's faltering performance, its indisciplined ministers and its differences with the left. There are also today growing concerns about the Prime Minister's leadership. The Hindu in the article I mentioned says Dr. Singh needs to seize control of his government. The other side has run away with the ball of argument. The Prime Minister must reinvent himself. That's a sorry state of affairs for the PM.
I'm sorry that this kind of criticism has been leveled against a Prime Minister who today perhaps enjoys the kind of respect that perhaps very few Prime Ministers enjoyed in the international community. Look at the figures. This country has had a growth of 8.4, 7.5, 1 second, and now 8.1% projected. Investment rate is 29.1%. Savings rate is 30.1%, or the other way around. Savings rate is 29.1. Investment.
You're a superb lawyer who learns facts and repeats them like a wonderful command parrot.
1 second. It's not a question. These are real figures.
I'm not denying it.
You are saying here is a Prime Minister whose image is battered. The figures, where the economy show that the Prime Minister's image is battered only through the media, but the facts show otherwise.
Let's not get into a quarrel about the statistics of the economy and what they are due to and what they are due to. I don't deny the statistics. I might question what they are due to. Leave that aside.
All right.
The first problem with the Prime Minister's leadership is that people say he's too shy and retiring to be an effective Prime Minister. They say sincerity and integrity he has in spades. But does he have the tough qualities needed to be a leader? What's your answer to that?
Well, Atal Bihari Vajpayee had all the tough qualities to be a leader. See what happened to him.
So Dr. Manmohan Singh is as good as Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Is that your answer?
No. My answer is that Dr. Manmohan Singh is a different kind of Prime Minister. He's a different man. If you let me answer now, he's a different man. We all know that he's a self-effacing, modest, honest, oodles of integrity, and wants to do something
no
for
one
the
denies
common
that.
people of this
Has
country.
he got the tough
He
qualities?
Has, he has.
What's
Otherwise the country would not be moving forward.
Oh, he's got ministers who seem to defy him, ministers who quarrel, ministers who seem to set policies which he doesn't agree with.
Nobody has defied
Arjun
him.
Singh, Meera Kumar, Sharad Pawar, Anbumani Ramdas.
You are talking about little things that have happened.
Oh, these are little things.
Why? The education sector is not only about reservations. Education sector is not about reservations.
Except that when the reservation fiasco happened, the Prime Minister was silent. Not once did he step forward to reassure the country.
The investment in the education sector, how many crores it is?
I'm talking about leadership. Not once when the fiasco over reservations hit the front pages, and it lasted for 4 weeks, did the Prime Minister step up and reassure anyone. He was silent, he was absent. Most people thought he's gone missing.
See what happened. There's an oversight committee which is looking at the issue.
And the Supreme Court's questioning the Prime Minister's handling.
The Supreme Court is anybody goes to the Supreme Court nowadays.
They're even questioning the basis of your decision.
I don't know what you're saying. How are they questioning? They have admitted a matter. On what basis do you say they're questioning?
They've asked for a
They have a right to ask.
So that's questioning.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
I mean, courts should not admit petitions if they are filed. Is that what you're saying? And if a petition is admitted, it's a great, it's
very embarrassing. It's very embarrassing when the government announces a decision and the Supreme Court questions the basis of the decision.
Every decision of the previous NDA government was challenged in court and struck down.
Thank God for the NDA. Thank God for the NDA. That's the level.
That doesn't matter. In this case, hardly any decision has been struck down by courts.
Come back to the Prime Minister.
Yes.
The first question mark about his leadership is to do with his shy and retiring character and whether he's tough enough. The second is to do with the question that he hasn't captured the public imagination. People say he hasn't offered a vision the country can rally behind.
Which is the people who say that?
The newspapers?
Newspapers.
The Hindu
Are we going to run this government on newspapers?
Well, public opinion is determined by
I'm not too sure.
Do not care?
I mean, some newspapers at the national level don't have... newspapers last year said that the NDA was romping through, it's going to win the election. If we go by newspapers, the NDA would be still in power.
In 12 months. 12 months is a long point of time.
The NDA would be still in power if we went by newspapers. Let's go by reality. The reality is that this government is moving forward. This government is doing things for the people. This government is an Aam Aadmi government. The kind of programs like Freedom of Information Act, National Employment Guarantee Scheme,
Minister, I asked you a different question.
What question are you asking me?
I asked you whether the Prime Minister is showing leadership qualities in terms of setting an agenda, in terms of capturing imagination.
He has captured the imagination by launching the National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. He's not capturing the imagination of the people by putting forward the Freedom of Information Act is not catching the imagination of the people.
The first people to be found fault with under the Freedom of Information Act happened to be the PMO itself.
It doesn't matter.
First people,
but that's an institutional change. It's an institutional change which has caught the imagination of the people. Never before has such a scheme like the National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme been launched by any government in the history of India.
The third concern,
for 200 districts,
the third concern with the Prime Minister.
And there's been great success on that scheme, incidentally. The lakhs of employment cards have been issued. You know that.
Can I point out something? That credit for that is claimed by the NAC rather than the government. Credit for it is claimed by the left rather than the government.
When the government has launched the scheme, you give the credit to somebody else. I don't understand
Aruna Roy has resigned from the NAC.
That's all right. People may resign, people may come and go. That's not the issue.
Let's come to the third concern with the Prime Minister's image. People say that today, even after 2 years in office, he functions like a bureaucrat rather than a politician. They say that had he had political instincts, he would have checkmated Arjun Singh and Meera Kumar. Instead, they've embarrassed him.
Karan, I am not going to respond to these kind of allegations. The fact of the matter is, on the reservation issue, the stand of the Prime Minister is very clear. The education system in this country must be inclusive. That's one limb of the stand. Number two, we cannot compromise with excellence. That's the second limb of the stand. And he set up an oversight committee to ensure how the system can be made exclusive and how excellence can be maintained. What's wrong with that? Can I ask
you a simple question? Do you believe that this whole issue of reservations was handled as effectively as it should have been?
I thought you asked me the question about the Prime Minister.
Absolutely.
Why you asked me why? The Prime Minister's position is clear and we fully support it.
It is clear today.
No, it was always clear.
Clear at the time when the trouble was brewing for 4 weeks.
If you have listened to the Prime Minister, and you journalists ought to listen to him because he makes speeches.
Listen to him, you couldn't. He was absent, he was silent, he was missing.
He has given at least 20 speeches while the controversy was on, saying that excellence in education must be maintained.
Do you know what the students who met the Prime Minister are saying in private? They're saying he pleaded with them.
Please, for God's sake,
he pleaded with them
don't talk about private conversations, because I am not in a position to comment on them.
So then what are you talking about the Prime Minister's 20 statements? They want any 20 statements.
A lot of people in the left, a lot of people in the other, the opposition also say that the government is doing very well. Privately, a lot of people say a lot of things.
If you're so,
let's not go by what private conversations take place.
Let me accept what you're saying. You're absolutely convinced that the PM's leadership is intact and that it is effective. Absolutely. If that is the case, and yet it's perceived to be otherwise, do you think he needs different advisors? Do you think he needs to reshuffle the PM?
Who have you asked that it is perceived to be otherwise? There are 1 billion people in this country. Ask the poor people whether some of the benefits are reaching them. Ask those who have got employment cards under the National Employment Guarantee Scheme, and you will see that people say this is the best thing any government could have done. Ask those children who have got toilets and drinking water. Ask those rural villages which are now beginning to be connected through road networks. Ask those people who are getting electricity. Ask those people who are getting irrigation.
You're wonderful. You're like a lawyer that's so convincing in court. You believe that the real people of India, if given a voice, will actually vote for the PM.
You will see the next election what will happen.
You're also suggesting that the real people of India aren't talking, and that the newspapers somehow
you have not reached the real people of India.
I'm judging by public opinion and newspapers. You're questioning
forget about some elite newspapers in this country, and we respect them. We respect them.
Forget about them, but we respect them.
No, I said forget about their opinions. We respect them.
Absolutely. Forget about their opinions. We respect them.
I'm sorry. When I say forget about their opinions means that that's not the opinion of the nation.
I have 30 seconds.
That's not necessarily the opinion of the nation.
Can I put my last question to you?
Yes.
People say that the Prime Minister might not finish his 5 years. Can you assure me that he will finish 5 years?
Well, look, Karan, first of all, such a question should never be answered.
Why not? Never answered?
Never be answered. For the simple reason, the people of this country decide whether a government will be in power or not.
So the people could bring it down before 5 years are over?
Any government can be brought down for before 5 years. Any government can commit suicide before 5 years. Any government can last not just 5 but 10 years. I believe this government is going to last 10 years.
Kapil Sibal, on that answer which is very ominous, rich with meaning, and which everyone would interpret for themselves, thank you for talking to Devil's Advocate.
Thank you.